So we welcome back onto the podcast the one and only Mr. T. Rave
in the house with AJ. By the way, didn't we just do this in January?
Oh, what was it?
This year?
Yeah. See, it was so quickly.
Yes. It's because I've been doing all these preview shows with guys, and I'm like, yeah, we just talked in January about last season, and now we're talking about this season starting again. It's good. I mean, it's a return to quote unquote normal, but it's kind of funny, in a weird what happened in the last 2 years kind of way.
Yeah, no kidding. Like the bubble popped quickly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you are evidently Mr. Sharks Audio Network now guy, yes?
Yeah, I mean, we're doing some really great stuff, and they've had me. We started off small, right? Like we did Morning Tide, and Dan had been producing stuff, and so now they are just trying to do more and more and more. So the Sharks, they had me doing that stuff, and they said, can you do more, and can you help us produce more content? Not just you, because believe it or not, AJ, people don't want to listen to just me. And I was like, yes, that's fine. I was like, I'll gladly help. I'll edit audio, we'll record stuff together. And so the idea is to have much more expansion this year. We just launched the Drew Remenda show. If you saw I know who. I like to tell people that I'm actually Drew Remenda from the past. I discovered a time machine, and I'm here now in a beard just to try and throw off the timeline. But so Drew Remenda's podcast, we just launched the other day. We're going to be doing things with him probably about every 2 weeks or twice a month, something to that effect. We just did our season preview. We just did our division previews coming out tomorrow. And then we are going to try and do, more of, as often as we can, more extended pregame, more extended postgame. We're working on a Randy podcast. We are working on some other stuff, hopefully, that I can't yet speak about, but we're trying to expand things and bring it out because, and I don't know if you saw Brody's YouTube the other day talking about why, sports talk doesn't do anything on the Sharks. Did you, I don't know if you saw it.
No, he gave me a heads up on that because that's something that I'm sure like me, you, Brody have discussed ad nauseum over the last decade or so.
Yeah. And like he's not wrong. Like my take is a little bit different than his, but everything that you pointed out is not wrong. But as you know, because you get really good numbers, and I know people who listen to your podcast and watch your YouTubes and stuff, there's a void to fill. Like people, they want it. So we're trying to, give them more and more content and just try and, build it in the right direction. And, there's, like I said, there's stuff coming on the horizon still. And then Dan's doing his Teal Report every day, his instant replay, his Where Are They Now, Sharks Hockey Digest. And then we've got the Barracuda and everything Nick Nollenberger is doing. Have you talked to Nick before? Forgive my ignorance.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, we do a thing with it. We try to get him on at least twice a month with the show that we kind of have going called In the Reef, where we talk about, we try to get Nick on here and find out what's going on with the baby sharks and at least get an idea of what's going on, who's doing well, who could do better, and just, what's going on with the team. Absolutely.
Yeah, so we've got all, the stuff he's doing, there's a multitude of shows that he's doing and the broadcasts for both the Sharks and the Barracuda. And he just put out his season preview the day before yesterday. So that was exciting to get that up out there. But yeah, man, I mean, we're trying to fill the void, like, as you well know. And I wish that more, like AJ was, or not AJ, Brody, if you'll recall, AJ, as I try to recapture the English language. He was talking about how, maybe the hosts in the Bay Area don't have the bandwidth to cover the Sharks, but like, he's probably right to an extent, but I'm like,
I call bullshit.
Well, but he's right to an extent because you have to specialize in the 49ers, the Warriors, and the Giants. And it could be because I'm insane, but I always felt like I was able to stay up on everything when I needed to. I mean, now I don't follow the Raiders as closely anymore because they're in Vegas. Although I can't walk out the front door lately without getting the latest Raider news for number of reasons. But you know, it's worked out well for the Sharks Network stuff. But the thing is like what I'm hoping the Sharks Network does, the Sharks Audio Network, is that it shows sports talk like, oh yeah, there is a market for this. People are listening to this. You know, it's just, you get frustrated, obviously, because you want people to talk about the Sharks, but it's opened up opportunity for people like you and me. So it's a good.
See, and that's the funny part is that it's like, I've been talking Sharks with you since the 1050 days, so many years ago, when it was literally us and another podcast called Dudes on Hockey. Mm-hmm. And that was it, you know, when it came. And again, it was, you would be on 1050. You'd get the occasional appearance from Remenda with Tolbert, you know, in the afternoon. And that was appointment radio without a doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a blast to listen to. But then, you know, there'd be other times that somebody would try to call up Radnich and be like, hey, what about this show? Nobody cares, you know? And it was just like, well, there's some people who do.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is like it's this weird dynamic in radio where, because I still work in radio and they're very aware that KCBS, that, you know, the South Bay, you know, there's a huge amount of listeners there, but for sports talk, that doesn't seem to get through. And KCBS is news, so it's a little bit different, but you know, KCBS understands like, hey, the South Bay, that's the most, you know, that's where most of the people in the Bay Area live. There's more people there than San Francisco, but for sports talk, it's Warriors, 49ers, and Giants. And, you know, you just change the order on which team is doing the best or is the most dynamic. And
well, and I get that because they're the ones that pull. You look at the TV ratings, you know, like that's what pulls the ratings. I understand that, but it's that idea of, I don't know how many times we saw like 95.7 try to launch like a Sharks centric segment. Well, you know, like I remember at one point they were going to do Tank Talk every Thursday from 4:30 to 5, and it lasted 3 weeks. You know, and so I just go back to that time where it's like I used to call you up on 1050 because like you were literally the only one who would talk a little puck.
I will defend Ryan Covey. Ryan Covey is a Sharks fan, and he would talk Sharks hockey. So he's the other one.
Well, from what I understand, if you can get Bruce talking a little Blackhawks, he'll talk your ear off.
Yeah, but that's, you know, that's a little bit different because then when me and Damon used to talk about that, there was Blackhawks superiority complex.
True that. So yeah, I'll give you that.
Damon, I'm teasing. I love you, but yeah, I mean, it's just it's part of the dynamic. But we're really excited about what we're doing with the audio network. And I, you know, just to be able to be part of trying to build something like this, especially with the way the audience is changing and the way that, like, when we talk about this, I always go back to like, yeah, the Giants, the Warriors, and the 49ers are the three oldest teams. And so they have more generations to build those fan bases. But you know who's also gaining more generations of fan bases? The San Jose Sharks. Like every generation, you're going to get another. Like my kids, they have the hockey cards. They watch Sharks games. They're 7 and 5 because they have those hockey games and they have hockey cards. And they have that sponge brain. A commercial will come on and like my 7-year-old, he'll be like, "Oh, you know, Dad, did you know that Mark Stone on such and such date did this?" And I'm like, "No." I'm like, "Is that from your card?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, my brain isn't that spongy at this point, but. You know, I'm raising a generation of Sharks fans. So it's, you know, that's going to be more and more the dynamic going forward. There's going to be more and more people that grew up watching the Sharks. They're going to have children that grew up watching the Sharks that will thusly. I'm not sure if you're too familiar with human procreation, AJ, but we tend to, you know, pass things down to the next generation.
A little bit. Well, I know, like I said, I mean, we started this whole thing, I don't know, 6-ish years ago or something, because we were quite frankly, just, you know, disgusted with the lack of talk that was on there. And I understand there's a lot of people that will throw out the whole chicken and the egg going, well, we don't talk Sharks because no one calls in about it. Well, maybe no one calls in about it because you don't talk about it. And I can just go into a spiral, but there would be times where you would try to call and it would just, what are you going to do? So we started this. And the funny thing is, like I said, when we started, it was like we were the first video cast for Sharks, doing and we always had that mantra for the fans, by the fans. And now there's like 27 different Sharks podcasts now, which I get a huge kick out of. I'm just waiting. You were talking about a roundtable earlier where it's like, get a Hetty or a Drew or a Ruzi or something like that, get them going. And it's like, I'm waiting for the Sharks podcast roundtable.
We could all sit down and do it and just give hot takes left and right.
Oh, absolutely.
It would be fun. We actually, I might have to float that idea, or you might have to organize, and one of us has to do something with this.
Well, you're talking about some of this content. Here's one for you. How about you can even grab a little Willie Nelson, throw a little On the Road Again in the background as your music bed. But how about road stories from Remenda and Hahn all the time that they were together traveling on the road? Because I will tell you, one of my all-time favorite Remenda stories that he's told was, and this is, again, this is going to be the whole thing about how spongy your mind is. Do you remember in Vancouver, Nabokov scoring a power play goal?
Somebody tweeted out something about that the other day, and it jogged my memory. This was actually mentioned recently. Is this why you're referencing it, or?
No, I don't think so.
It may have been Reddit. It's often Reddit of why, when you're doom scrolling and somebody mentions something later, and I'm like, why do somebody mentioned that the other day, and I can't figure out if it was Twitter or if it was Instagram. It might have been Rusanowski in a meeting, because he was going over stats and he complained that there weren't goalie stats. He may have been the one that referenced that.
Well, that guy is a stat machine.
Oh, dude, Ruzi is he's incredible. But anyway, continue. Sorry.
No, so the thing being is that Drew's story is that if you go back and listen to that clip, if you put, Nabokov goal in YouTube, Drew just walks all over the call. It's like, it's like he's coming in and Navi snaps the stick and Drew's like, oh my God, he's got it, blah, blah, blah. And evidently ever since then, anytime there's some sort of thing, it's at a Bay Area Emmys thing, it's Nabokov being inducted to the Bay Area Hall of Fame. And every time they show that goal and all you hear is Drew's voice. And from what I understand, Randy just gives him the horse eye. Just, you walked on my moment. So that's why I'm thinking it would be great to just have, because those guys were together for what, 12, 13 seasons or whatever.
Yeah. Just count the Emmys. That'll give you a good idea.
Right. Just to hear that. Because I will tell you one of my favorite Drew stories, and it's not Randy related, but Drew should write a book, for Christ's sake.
I agree.
He talked about, it's we all know his contract wasn't renewed after 14, and Todd McClellan went on to coach the Edmonton Oilers. Mm-hmm. He ended up working with the Edmonton Oilers. So evidently they were coming back from some road trip, and it's, 1:30 in the morning in Edmonton in December. You can imagine the weather.
Yes, I can. And I try not to.
Yeah. They're evidently outside the charter waiting for their luggage, in just, biting cold. And he just looks over at McClellan and goes, yeah, these are the days San Jose was better.
Yeah, man. I know people talk about the California taxes, but I think in moments like that, you're like, you know what? Give me that tax rate anytime. Yeah. Anytime. I don't know how people do it. Like, I am soft. I am California soft, AJ. I believe you are too. But I don't know how people do it. Listen, I love Canada, and I've been lucky enough to go to Vancouver, Montreal, and Toronto with the earthquakes. They're three of the most incredible cities I've ever been to. Absolutely adore it. But I'm in there when it's not winter.
Yeah.
And Vancouver doesn't get too cold, but Toronto does, and Montreal does. You talk about Edmonton, which in the summer in the oil fields, it gets pretty hot, but in the winter, conversely, it gets pretty cold.
Just a scotch.
Just a scotch. Excellent scotch usage, by the
way. So here's my thing with the Sharks Audio Network. This is my complaint, if you will. This is it's like I would like to speak to your manager. When I go on to the Sharks audio app,
yes,
I look at the I looked at the website today, and there's just only a handful. There's a few morning tides.
I know, and that is something we are actively working on. Actually,
the library, yes,
the library. We are working on getting that all available there, because it is. Let me break it down for everybody. The stuff that's Sharks Game Day related is under Sharks Game Day podcasts. Almost everything else except for Morning Tide comes out under Sharks Hockey Digest.
Okay.
And then Morning Tide comes out under Morning Tide. Like if you go to iTunes or the podcast app, if you search Sharks Hockey Digest right now, you will come up with San Jose Sharks 2020. I'm on it right now, literally. The 2021-22 San Jose Sharks season preview, SAP centered, the Drew Remenda show, Sharks development camp roundup, my hockey love story, things like that. If you go to
you're saying that you can go and listen to each one of those directly through Apple Podcasts.
Correct. And Spotify and Google.
Okay.
And
so
then if you go to
that's my
Sharks,
issue.
Yeah, that's Sharks Hockey Digest. But yes, continue your issue.
Well, I was going to say, so my issue is, like, I appreciate that that's all on that it's segmented on Apple Podcasts or whatever other platforms that are available. But my whole thing is that if they want to run everything through the Sharks, the SAP Sharks app,
yes,
there needs to be that, access availability there for the library, because I had a couple of friends hit me up and they're like, dude, I heard that like Drew Remenda was on Sharks audio. I don't know where the hell to find it. I go onto the app and they're playing a replay of a Vancouver San Jose game from 1996.
It should be on the app though, because this is it on the app right now.
But is it playing live right now? Is that what it is?
It's not playing live right now, but if you go to audio and you scroll down.
All right, hold on. I'm going to play with you.
Yeah, there's an audio button and there's a live button. If you click on audio.
All right, I'm touching it. I've got teal.
Oh, dude, this is so funny. You have no idea. I am so well versed in what you're bringing up.
Oh, so this is what I'm saying. Oh, okay. So now I'm hitting audio, and it's season preview, return to SAP Center, Drew Remenda show. Okay, this is exactly what I was talking about. So I feel better now. Okay, I feel better now because.
But see this, AJ. This validates your instincts, because you're right. This was something we've been rectifying, because it wasn't all available there. And we've been doing it on the app, and we're trying to work on it on the webpage, because we know it's not just the live stream, and not everybody knows about all the different areas you can get on Apple Apple Podcasts and Google, Spotify, etc. And the app is the best way to get it on there. But yeah, I mean, you're right. That was something that we've been working on, is to make sure everybody has the ability to get all this stuff right when it comes out.
Yeah, well, because we live in a TiVo world, right? Where it's just like, I just want my content and I want it right now, and that's what I want.
Totally legit. And listen, that's why, I never, except for sports, I watch nothing else when it actually airs.
I'm exactly the same.
Yeah. Like when I'm watching Anderson Cooper, it's not when it's live. When I am watching, I'm trying to think what else.
Seth Meyers or something, or
whatever it is, it's never gonna be. Because if I'm up that late, it's going to be you've seen me tweet about it before. It's when I go back and I rewatch the Sharks replay, and I try to see if it comes out any different the second watching.
Well, it's it's the Ted Lasso mentality or whatever.
I haven't seen that yet.
You have not seen a single episode?
Let me defend myself.
All right.
Let me.
Okay. You're like, I'm a father.
No. It's not even that. No, a kid's like, hey, go play in the basement. Daddy's got to watch TV. Mm-hmm. No, my main TV watching time was when I would travel with the Earthquakes. I haven't gone on a road trip with the Earthquakes since October of 2019 because of the pandemic. It used to be I would sit on the airplanes, I would whip out my iPad, and I would watch TV. And that's how I watch Game of Thrones. That's how I watch Mad Men. That's how, I watch everything. And I'm 2 years behind on television. I literally haven't seen anything. And I am hoping that the plan is to resume traveling when we get a little bit better into the pandemic next year. That was my main TV watching time. So I know.
You'll love you some Ted Lasso.
I like the name in the show as well. This is one of my, there are not enough good Teds out there. There's like me, there's like Ted Danson, there's Ted Kennedy, which is a little iffy. But then like you got like your Ted Kaczynski's, not a good Ted. Ted Bundy, not a good Ted.
Hey, Teddy Ruxpin.
Dude, I was 7 years old when that came out. Do you understand how often I was talking to Brody about this the other day? I was like, I hate Teddy Ruxpin. I was like, I got called Teddy Ruxpin from the age 7 to probably 10. People still bring it up today. And I'm like, that goddamn bear. Bear.
I mean, you talk about the quintessential bear, Seth MacFarlane's Ted.
Yes. That's a better one. Yeah. I did appreciate that. And that's a fun. I haven't seen the second one, but the first one was damn funny.
Oh, see, I actually appreciated the second one more.
Really? Okay, yeah. I got to see it.
Yeah, one of the few times where I thought the sequel was better than the original.
Okay. I thought the first one was very funny, though.
Loved it. But so love the fact that okay, so that was my big thing, was that kind of library repository access. That's I'm a big fan of NHL Network on Sirius, so I can sit there and go.
Me too.
It's like I'm busy in the mornings doing work or whatever, but then it comes like 2:00, the load lightens a little bit, and it's like, oh, what did Boomer and Hahn say earlier? I can just dial right into it, especially if someone's going to be on like a Ruzanowski or a Kevin Kurz or someone like that. Oh, they're talking specifically about Sharks, dial right into it. So love the fact that is coming about. Love the fact that so Apple Podcasts, so are we going to get this all under one umbrella? Because it sounded like earlier you were talking that it was kind of convoluted, where it's like where there's this version, there's this version.
No, what it is like the stuff that's related to Sharks Game Day, like Dan's Teal Report and his instant replay. That's under Sharks Game Day. So it's so people don't have to subscribe to a lot of different podcasts, essentially.
They just have to subscribe to one?
Yeah. And then it goes out under that. The other one, though, is Sharks Digest, which is everything else that's not game day related.
Gotcha.
And then the other one is Morning Tide. That one has an individual podcast release as well.
So I got to subscribe to 3 things.
It's essentially. Okay. Or you can go to the app and it'll all be there.
There you go. Okay. That's what I was wondering. Okay. See, I think we've kind of uncovered, we pulled the rock over and we figured this out.
Yeah. I mean, that was one of the things that we were working with over the summer, was to try and figure these things out and try and figure out where we had gaps, where we weren't coming through. And that was one of them. It was like, we need to make sure this is there on the app for people to get to, because I mean, people just, they need a simple way. I mean, listen, I know everybody is very well capable enough of going out and find these things. Nobody wants to have to go find anything. I'm the exact same way. I'm like, what is the easiest way for me to get what I'm looking for? Which is why I subscribe to Sirius, because that's where I could get hockey talk.
Thank you. No, but I see that all the time, that on social media, whether Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, whatever, sometimes I'll see questions put out on those platforms, and I'm going, like, dude, we talked about this like 6 months ago. Where have you been? But then you have to roll the question back on yourself. Well, it's like, well, why weren't they aware that we talked about this 6 months ago?
Yeah.
Like maybe we didn't push this information enough. So I totally get that aspect of it. So I think with all of that now, it's just, so when is Teal Town USA added to the library? And then fans are back in stands. We've talked about this before. I don't know if you heard this earlier. We had a chat with Randy Hahn last night.
I was watching,
and he made the announcement that Augie's, if you're familiar, the Montreal Deli out of Berkeley, which is just chef's kiss. So coming to the tank. Now, I know that you and I talked about that once this pandemic shit was over, you and I were going to have pizza and a beer. Now, I think it's going to have to be Montreal Augie's Deli and
that's
a beer.
Fine.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to have to make that happen.
And can I plug a podcast that I'm doing?
Absolutely.
Cool. No, because the one we're doing that's very important for everybody, and I'm serious. I hate to get all like, hi, I'm going to talk about this, but with Mike McCarroll, who is the vice president of fan experience or guest experience for the San Jose Sharks and SAP Center, we did a thing about all the food options, all the new alcohol stuff, all the new things. But the podcast, it says SAP Centered Episode 2. If you go to your app right now, it's towards the top, but it goes over all the stuff about the Clear app. It talks about the COVID policies. It's like, and I don't know about you, but this was a question I asked, and I felt like people think Ted's joking. I was like, no, I'm serious. I was like, how do you eat and drink at SAP Center if there's a mask mandate? Like, and I feel like I was like, I'm not trying to be like cute. I literally did not know. And he was saying like, yeah, like you can take the mask out if you're, drinking, if you're eating. If it's an active process, you're allowed to do that. And then you put the mask back on. But like, I'm sure I'm not the only person who had questions like that. Right.
Yep.
So I would just encourage everybody who's going to come back to the tank. Are you going to be there on Saturday night?
I'm actually out of town. I'm going to Reno for a concert that I've had tickets for since March of 2020. This concert was supposed to happen May of 2020.
What concert is it?
Okay, there we go. Let's see if Teddy can pull this off.
Let's see.
Have you heard of a band called In This Moment?
I have not.
All right, we got someone sneaking in the background.
That's my dad sneaking in the background.
What up, Pops?
That's the infamous Hal Ramey.
But no, it's a band called.
It's AJ. Sorry. Continue.
It's a band called In This Moment. The only way I can describe them is if like Lady Gaga and Marilyn Manson got together.
You referenced them before last summer. Yeah.
Might have.
And it may have been, was this the second time it's been rescheduled?
No, first time it's been rescheduled. Okay. I saw them at the Warfield, I want to say in like 2019, I want to say.
Because you've definitely referenced them before to me. So
yeah, very theatrical, very heavy, but also very melodic, but they put on one hell of a show.
Good deal. I was about to say they're my brother lives at least part of the year in Reno.
Oh, no kidding.
He does the Nevada Wolfpack. He does their football and basketball play-by-play.
Oh, fantastic. See that. And the funny thing is that they actually just played at the beginning. I think it was October 3rd. They just played at the Warfield. This is part of that same tour. But it's like, but no, initially when this whole thing was scheduled, they weren't playing there. Those dates were added. So I was just like, well, I already got tickets for this. And it kind of bums me out because look, I'm gonna, it's gonna be the first opening night I've missed in like a decade. We've talked with Jonathan Becker and Doug Bentz over the last couple of weeks that, they're slowly dripping out little nuggets about what to expect for opening night. There's going to be the San Pedro March down to the tank. There's going to be chalk artists happening on what is now Barack Obama Boulevard, formerly Autumn Street. But there's going to be a whole bunch of stuff going on out there. So yeah, I'm kind of, I'm a little bit bummed, but I went to the preseason game last Saturday against the Golden Knights. Now, granted, I don't know that there was more than 3,000 people in the building, but the Clear app, it's still very like, as long as you have it at the ready, just like you would with your tickets, it's easy peasy. Yeah. Super simple. So yeah, I look forward to it. But when I was inside, I will say for the most part, when people were sitting at their seats, maybe about 50-50 wearing the masks. But I did notice on the concourse, it was more like 80-20 people, more, about 80% were wearing the mask. So, look, and that's the thing that I do kind of worry about, like how whether it's the Warriors or the Sharks, because I don't know if you've noticed this, but I mean, last time I looked, like San Francisco Giants were like, I don't know, best team in the MLB for like 4 months straight.
Yeah,
and
right.
Still, you would see the game, and this is an outdoor event. And you still saw a decent amount of empty seats. So I think is just emphatic as sports fans are. I think they're kind of like, this is great, but
no, I mean, because my two kids haven't been to a hockey game since what was it? It was President's Day 2020, right before the pandemic. The Sharks had a day game that day, and they're not old enough to be vaxxed. So my wife and I, it's like a conversation that we have ongoing about bringing them back. But like if I understand where people are coming from, like it's scary, man. Like listen, in California, we're doing much, much better than the rest of the country, but like, there's still almost like 2,000 people dying every day. Like I go to the World Meters website and it does the list. Like we're doing better in California, but like rest of the country is not doing as well as we are in California.
Yeah.
And I understand the apprehension.
Yeah. Sports fans are known to travel.
Yes.
So you just kind of, I understand
but like, that's the thing is like, it's unfortunate that we're not at a place where everybody can feel like 100% comfortable. And I hope that we get back to that sooner rather than later. And I think the Sharks are doing everything they can, but like, I'm not going to hold it against people because if they're like not there, because like, I get it. Like it's a legit concern.
Well, and I will say this though, for that game that I was at, for the couple of the Giants games that I've gone to over this last summer, I will say, and maybe I've just been fortunate, but the group that I've been surrounded by at all of these events over the last, I don't know, 9 months or whatever, just amazingly respectful of personal space. And it's just, like I've been just amazed by it. It's just so nice because you see all these horror stories on social media and
Yeah. I mean, that's bad news travels, man. I mean, like I think there's a lot of like great positive stories about humanity that have come out of the pandemic that people haven't focused on in the slightest because it's not as click worthy as the horrible stories and people yelling at flight attendants, these just like degenerates. And you're like, what is wrong with you? Like you just sit down, put on a mask and fly, as Louis C.K. once said, like magic across the country in a matter of hours, what used to take hours and kill people in a covered wagon or take months, not hours. But, it's like just, that gets more clicks as opposed to people who've done really awesome things.
But that's the point is that, it get like the bad news for some reason gets more clicks. That's one of the things that just drives me absolutely bonkers is living in this like kind of Yelp society where it's so much more fun, I guess, or easier to go and whine and bitch and complain about something than to offer praise.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's an avenue because people feel like they can be heard where maybe they haven't before. So I get it. I mean, me and you are lucky though, because we can go in front of a microphone and express ourselves. Not everybody has the ability to do that. So,
really, it feels like it because there's like 2 bajillion. What was it? Greg Wyszynski the other day said, we've reached the threshold. There are now more NHL podcasts than there are NHL fans.
That's awesome.
We have podcast overload.
I will not forget from when he used to be Puck Daddy, by the way.
Oh, Puck Daddy. Well, see, for all the shit that Skip Bayless catches, it's like I remember when he was like writing for the Merc.
Yeah, and on like KMBR and stuff. Yeah.
So
I know you've got TV you want to watch. I don't want to keep you from it. But
what we're talking about, is the jersey giving it away?
Yeah.
Is it?
Okay. But I have to ask you because I always tell people I am not a scout. Shocker. But I feel like I am good at eyeballing talents. And I feel like William Eklund, man, every time he's on the puck, it is exciting. And I feel like it is very, very exciting to watch him play. And he just turned 19, yesterday or the day before?
Yeah, 2 days
ago.
So,
I mean, I can't help but just every time he's on the puck, just think about how good he's going to be. You were at the preseason game. You saw that goal that he and Balsers contributed on. And it was awesome.
He's, I know it's been said by, whether it's Randy or Hetty or whoever, they've all said it. Everybody has. You look at him, it's, smaller guy in stature. He's got to grow into that body, but he's been compared to like a Patrick Kane, who's slighter in stature. But when do you see Kane get hit? The guy's elusive.
And Eklund's slippery.
Yeah, he's slippery. What did Burns call him today? A gecko?
Gecko, yeah.
So it's, he's a slippery cat. If he can avoid those big hits at that slighter stature, I know that I think he's like about 5'10" or something. Sidney Crosby's 5'11".
Yeah.
But he's a little bigger. But it reminds me of the days of like a Alexander Korolyuk. That guy was like 5'9", but that guy could stick handle in a phone booth when need be. So if if he has that just elusiveness, boy, I don't know how the Sharks are going to be able to look at that 9-game threshold and go, yeah, we're going to send him back to Sweden.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially if he continues on the path that he's had. Because what he had, like 5 points in 6 games?
Yeah, and it might be more.
Yeah, it might be.
I'm not sure. But I mean, I just look at where he was in the development camp, which I was at that. And then I got to see, I was there in person. I've been in there for all the games this preseason in person. He's literally getting better every single game. Yeah. And like the thing about him is you notice like his hip positioning, like his body will be turned one way, but his shoulders will be square. And like when you see like Brent Burns is like that, different type of player, but you look at his positioning, like there's some guys who just know how to play out there and they receive the puck in a way that puts them in the position to be a step or two ahead of the next play. And that's what like every time William Eklund has it, I'm like, I'm excited. Like that's the eye test to me is like, you feel like something's going to happen. And let's be honest, it has. Preseason, I'm a sports broadcaster. I excel at being wrong. That's my caveat. However, my emotional reaction when watching him is that it's exciting, and that's got to mean something.
Well, it just, to me, I just think about him like, when was the last time you were this excited about a Sharks draft pick?
I mean, Timo Meier was pretty exciting, but you knew that it didn't happen this quickly.
No, not at all. Yeah. But Timo Meier was maybe what? I don't know.
15th,
I don't have it in
16th.
front of me. Yeah, I was going to say, I want to say in the teens.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's because the Sharks have been so successful for so long, they're rarely afforded the opportunity to draft this high. Now, of course, everybody's going to sit there and go, Tim Stützle. Everyone's going to sit there and talk about that.
Well, the one I mean, Patrick Marleau, I mean, that's the one I go to because I was a freshman in high school when he got drafted and he first came up just turning 18. And for me, I was like, dude, this dude could be going to high school with me. This is insane.
Right.
So like that's the one. And I know that's not fair to compare to a generational talent like Patrick Marleau, but that is kind of where my brain goes.
Well, and to bring up Marleau right now, it's like, you know, that like there's a part of me that I sit there and go, I can't believe nobody's picked him up. But then there's another part of me that just goes, yeah, but it's got to be a real small group because I mean, let's be honest. If like Arizona came and knocking, he's going to be like, where are you projected to end? No, I'm good. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't see the teams that are like, you know, comfortably going to your Edmonton, your Colorado, your Tampa, your Florida. I just don't know that those teams are going to sit there and go, yeah, like loved everything you've done for the last 22 years of your career. But, you know, we have our own trajectory. Love that you took, you know, the record for games played. That was fantastic. Have we seen Marleau play his last NHL game?
I mean,
and you think about it, his last NHL game was a 6-0 shutout against Vegas.
Yeah, it was not pretty. I don't know. I mean, because he's the type of guy who can go forever. You know, he's still an incredible skater. And you have to imagine injury or some situation will hit a team out there and they will say, you know, who's a professional who will be able to immediately come in and fall right in line is Patrick Marleau.
Not only a professional, but a guy who is like not known for being injured.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like, apparently they said that down the stretch last year, even though it was not reported on at the time, that he was dealing with an ankle injury. So, you know, I don't know. I mean, every time you count out a guy like Patty Marleau, he comes back and shows you that he's, you know, there's a reason why he has the Iron Man streak. There's a reason why he has the all-time games played record. I don't bet against greatness. It's just a bad move.
But here's the thing that could bake your noodle is when did the all-time games played? When did Gordie Howe set that record?
In the 70s, right?
I'm not even sure. I'm asking you. Like, I don't know if it was late 70s, early 80s. I don't even know.
It wasn't the 80s.
Are you sure? I thought he played for like 5 decades.
I know. This is where it gets confusing.
Yeah, I thought he played for like 5 decades, although I may be confusing leagues outside of the NHL. You know what I mean?
There's that. So I'm going to look at this right now. My instinct, let's see. His
last NHL game played. You know what I mean?
His last 79-80 with the Whalers.
Okay, so 80. So it basically took 40 years for somebody, you know, that record stood for 40 plus years Marlowe broke it. And as it stands right now, because of the game that was played, and in fact, there is, let's take a look now. There is 11 and a half minutes left in this game.
Mm-hmm.
But because of the game right now between the Penguins and the Panthers, Joe Thornton is now 99 games away from breaking a record that took someone else 40 years to break.
And I mean, if you want to, if anything tells you how unbelievable it was to watch the Sharks for like 20 years, seeing Jumbo and Marlowe play together. I mean, it's so, it's not just that they're Hall of Famers. It's that they were both physical specimens, literally unlike anything we've ever seen. And I don't think that's hyperbolic.
No,
based on the numbers.
Yeah, numbers wise. But that's the other thing that like just makes you kind of stand back for a second is like, this is like going to be like the first time in what, like 23 seasons that neither Marlowe or Thornton is a Shark. Like,
boy, yeah.
I mean, we're talking what, like 97, 98, right?
Yeah.
To today.
Yeah.
So it's just like, could you imagine, like, there are fans out there that don't know the Sharks without Marlowe and or Thornton, you know?
Yeah. And well, they came into the league before Mario Ferraro was born, I believe. I remember.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like, you think about things like that. It doesn't compute.
Yeah, well, it doesn't compute, but you bring up a great name. That's, I mean, we're talking about Marlowe. Marlowe obviously had the alternate captain patch on his jersey for last season. And who else was going to get that, especially when they're rolling out 4 of them. But right now, you know, it's, I mean, Cooch is obviously the captain. It's Carlson, it's Burns, Hurdle. Yeah. How do you not give Ferraro that other A if you're going to continue to roll 4, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's not my decision to make, and there's other factors that I will never see, but Ferraro, they talked about it last year. And I think Bugner even alluded to it as him being like part of the heartbeat of the team, which for a second-year player,
yeah, that's
really special to have some. And like Bob Bugner, it's not like he had a cup of coffee in the NHL. He knows what's up.
Yeah.
And for him to say that, and people got on Bugner last year because they said he was too honest. I loved his unabashed honesty. I thought he was great.
Couture.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there was a couple times where Bugner and that was the thing that I appreciated. Of course, like, if you could take one silver lining out of the pandemic, it was the fact that, you know, little dog and pony shows like ours were actually given access to those Zoom calls where we could, you know, kind of hear, because sometimes, to be fair, sometimes a Shark player might say something quote unquote impolitic or whatever, that when the final video is released to the public, you see a little edit, you know, and I understand, I get that. But to look at, there was a few times where Bugner straight up said, it's like, yeah, needed a save, we didn't get it. And yeah. I think that's the most honesty I've ever seen about the Sharks from a coach since the days of Daryl Sutter.
Boogie, man, like what was really cool about Bugner last year, though, is that he was only really, really hot on a couple of occasions. Now, he was always honest, but the one time where I looked at him and I was like, man, he is going to go he needs to get on a treadmill. He needs to burn up. It was when they scored, I think they were up 4-1 in St. Louis and lost 5-4. And he was visibly just like, you know, like you could see the blood rushing to his face after the game. And I understand, like, if you score 4 goals on the road, you need to win that game and not lose 5-4. Well, but like, for the most part, I felt like he was able to compartmentalize everything that was going on, which I thought was really much to his credit. But the fact that he did that while not losing his cool, but at the same time being really, really honest, I thought that was a really unique perspective. And the other great part of last year was Erik Karlsson with the apple, which would never have happened in person. That was so funny, man. Because, well, it threw me back to Seinfeld, the George Costanza reference where he says, I'll sound casual on the answering machine by eating an apple. That was all I could think of while I was watching him eat an apple on a Zoom. I was like, this is incredible. This is absolutely incredible right now.
I mean, no, the two funniest moments, I think, for me when it comes to the Zoom calls, it was Karlsson with the apple. but it was Knijoff with the wig.
That was good too. That was good.
Those were both great. But no, I got to say, I was a little ticked off, Scotch, where, Carlson was acting like, he was just swinging it around in the room, scaring other guys, with Apple. Not even close. And if anything, I'm not trying to like blow smoke at the person who asked that, and I'm not sure who did. I don't know if it was
I remember who it was. I won't name names, but I remember. We can talk off air.
Yeah.
But the thing is,
it's not a slam on them. I just feel like the question was worded a little bit too ambiguously. Like it would have been like, is this your best game as a Shark? And maybe the answer would have been different.
But the thing is in terms of his best offensive game, that did match his point total for a game in his best offensive game, I believe. Because it was discussed. People were like, he reacted a little, and like, I get it. Cause like, he's probably had games that had like bigger goals or had like bigger moments. So that's probably the context of which he was thinking of it. But like by the sheer numbers, it's a 1,000% valid question. I think he just, because it was, regular season and it wasn't, different situation. And plus like,
I think it needed to be phrased as a Shark.
Yeah, probably.
That's all. Yeah. But like,
that's the thing,
was
is
a
like
fun moment.
Yeah. Oh, I thought it was great. Like I thought it was so funny. Like I forgot those were the same games. Actually, I just thought the apple was hilarious.
Oh no, it was spectacular. But from somebody who, me, I'm like massive Sharks fan, not the biggest Carlson fan, admittedly. But when I see that and it's like, what are you riding right now? Minus 22. And, and you're sitting here acting like you're king shit. And I'm gonna
plus, like I was talking to Drew about this the other day, plus minus. I'm not because
no, I would no, we talk about this on our show all the time whenever it gets brought up, and it's like, oh, it's such a stupid stat. And it's like, no one's saying it's the end all be all. It's one of many indicators. Yeah.
As Marty Lurie would say, it's a mosaic. It's part of the tapestry.
Oh, I love that.
I will say though that Carlson looks like he's in phenomenal shape.
That's what I've heard.
Like
who knew that all that hair was weighing him down? He should go like you and Drew and just be like, he'll be just super fast.
Still be just 1,000 times better looking than me. Yeah. Because that's when I look at guys like Erik Karlsson, like our friend in New York who's just retiring now, I'm like, I just never had a chance. Like, I don't know what my wife sees in me, because there's men who are so much better looking than me. But, Erik Karlsson is one of them. But I feel like if he shaved his head, I'd be like, really, man? Now you're just showing off.
Well, from what I understand, he spent the entire summer in San Jose.
In San Jose, yeah. I guess he was training with Ozzy Weissblatt, I think,
which is really similar.
Yeah, which is really cool, good for Ozzy. Like, he's another guy whose positioning is excellent out there. If you, I don't know if you've watched his YouTube highlights.
I've seen a few, yeah.
Yeah, like his positioning, he's very good at receiving the puck. Bordelot is another guy. He's just.
But see, here's the thing though, is that, the press, like you're saying, they love to latch onto the negative things or whatever. And so the majority of the content that you're going to hear, it's going to be like, oh my God, these ridiculously long contracts for Couture and Burns and Vlasic and all that. But I'm telling you though, in 5 years, when you get a Bordelot and a Weissblatt and Weatherby grows up a little bit more,
Jasper,
and Eklund, and it's just like, you know what? I'll tell you right now, this might be a good time to get like good tickets for the Barracuda, especially in their new arena that comes out. That new
arena is going to be sick. Did you watch the special that was on?
Watch the special. I walked through the thing like a week ago.
Yeah, but I'm just like, for anybody who hasn't seen it, I don't know. They played it during the stream of the development camp game. And it was pretty much all about everything they're doing with that. And it looks incredible. And also, I know they're going to do some concerts there, which is going to be awesome. So, yeah, that looks incredible. But I will say this about the Sharks. There's a lot of naysayers. I don't think there is a scenario where you could walk to a coach in the NHL and say, you've got Brent Burns, Erik Karlsson, Mark-Edward Vlasic, Logan Couture, Timo Meier, Tomas Hertl. Who's going to say that's a bad situation?
Not a bad situation, but I'll be the first one to say that for a while, I thought that the addition of Erik Karlsson was subtraction by addition. I saw this team, I don't know, like maybe my vitriol should have been more targeted towards Evander Kane. I don't know. But for me, it was like, who was it? Brian Burke? I think it was Brian Burke talked about it. I think, who's the coach of the Patriots?
Bill Belichick?
Yeah, Belichick. No. It's,
I was like, is there a Patriots AHL team?
No. It's just that like Belichick was quoted as saying something like this. Brian Burke was quoted as saying something like this, where it was like, no matter what's going on, you don't lose your captain. He's the one who steers the ship. So when Pavelski left, and then Donskoy and Nyquist followed. It was, when those things happened, Sharks were second in the league in scoring, and then the following year they were like 28th.
Yeah,
it was not good. But
Nyquist really underrated, by the way.
Oh, so you're speaking Hockey Jerk's language. We're gonna get Hockey Jerk on here in a minute. Hockey Jerk, huge Nyquist fan, but that it was just the fact that those guys alone, it was like 54 goals, 112 points. Second in the league in scoring, and then what did you do? Those guys left, and you gave a whole ton of money to Erik Karlsson.
Yeah,
so of course Erik Karlsson's going to get the brunt of the vitriol because what changed?
Yeah, well,
they're going to say that
the expectation was for more development from guys like Kevin Labanc, and Erik Karlsson was never supposed to replace Joe Pavelski. Evander Kane was supposed to continue to develop into that role, which to Kane's credit, he was phenomenal last year, and you tracked it over 82 games. That is a great season.
Oh, fantastic. But
now the situation with Kane right now, we'll have to see where that goes. Yeah. I don't know everything that people say about how bad the dressing room was last year and the year before, because I don't know. I mean, I'm not in there.
But see, that's the whole thing that does kind of drive me nuts, is that the players, they're going to do their exit interviews as they do with the media. Yeah. And to Mario's credit, Ferraro came out and like apologized at the end of it. He's like, sometimes I might've been a little curt with you guys, but I was upset. I'm like, oh my God, no, you are amazing. You are forthcoming. Like, you don't talk in a lot of the cliches, which, I don't know if you saw the back and forth with Dan Boyle and Brody on Brody's YouTube channel in the last day or so.
No, I saw he did one with him a while ago.
Brody talked with Dan Boyle. It's on his YouTube channel like a couple days ago, or maybe yesterday, that came out. And Boyle's like first question was just kind of like, how many F-bombs can I drop?
Well, dude, Boiler's one of the great all-time talkers. He's my dad's favorite Shark of all time, I believe, because he said that Boiler would tell it like it is.
Yep.
And would go on. If my dad needed to go get a good quote about the Sharks for his Sunday special for KCBS, he said Boyle was the guy.
Oh, absolutely. And so he seems to be ready to just tell it like it is.
Yeah.
And I can't appreciate that enough. But there was sometimes where like some of the guys, it's just the cliches. And sometimes you just kind of like have to, call out something, what it is. That's one of the things that like sometimes Curtis Brown, I feel like on the post game, and I get his gig, he's there to pump tires, but sometimes it's like, we have to also acknowledge reality. And it's like, if the power play hasn't scored in 15 games, and you go over to him and go, what do you think is the problem with the power play right now? Well, I don't want to talk about that right now. I thought their penalty kill looked good. I'm like, no. We have to talk about everything in the game, not just like the good stuff.
Have you had Curtis on yet before then?
No, we have tried to a couple times, but and in fact, we even tried to dangle the carrot and say, we can talk shit about Brody. We'll love it. Come on out. And he's just like, And he said, yeah, let me know when. And then never heard from the guy again.
Well, I will try to facilitate that because Curtis is super cool. And I guarantee.
I met him a few times outside of the tank, and he's willing to talk your ear off. Or what? Yeah, no, super cool guy. But that, that's the funny thing too, is like guys like whether it's a Randy or a Hetty or a Ruzi, they I don't want to say embrace social media, but they're like, yeah, this is kind of a fun dabble thing. But then there are guys like Curtis Brown and Drew Remenda who are just like, no, social media can go jump off a goddamn cliff.
I get that. Like social media is it's a dangerous game just because people, people get themselves into a lot of stuff they should not. And I'm always wise enough to be like, should you tweet this, Ted? Like, yeah, no, you shouldn't.
Well, it's the quintessential double-edged sword, it feels like.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved your tweet about who put out that ridiculous headline.
It wasn't
about
just
Fosse?
ESPN. No, I talked to my brother about this. It was, AP did it. ESPN did it too. It said Fosse, it was like bowled over an all-star game by Pete Rose, dead at 74. I was like, how about two-time all-star, two-time Gold Glover, two-time World Series champion, 30-year broadcaster for the A's and beloved member of the baseball community?
Yeah, but that doesn't get the clicks.
But that's what I mean? Stupid. Like,
I'm right there with you.
The guy is known for, I know. I was just like, who writes this? I was like, it's not just that it's lacking in description. It's completely tasteless.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I'm like, I was saying, like, I don't think that when Don Zimmer died, it said Don Zimmer, who was hit in head,
who was the pitcher?
Pedro Martinez, or hit in head by fastball that led to Phil Rizzuto, being the first guy to wear a batting helmet. I was like, I don't think it mentioned that. I think it probably talked about what a great baseball man he was, which is what they should have said about Ray Fosse. And I was worried about saying that last night because I was like, I'm reacting emotionally to this. And I was like, but screw it. I think this is a classless thing and I need to point this out.
No, I totally agree with you. When I saw it, I was just like, what a ridiculous headline. But like you said, it would literally have been like, Zimmer passes away, known for being bowled over by Pedro Martinez.
It's like, it's one of those things. Like, I don't think that was in his obituary. I think they said like, one of the great baseball men of the, the 20th century dies at 83.
Could you imagine like Mad Bum passes away in the goddamn headline rather than like, savior of 2014 game 7, blah, blah, blah.
One of the best postseason fell off a dirt bike.
Yeah. But no. It was like best postseason. It's like, Mad Bum passes away at age whatever, known for being told by Yasiel Puig to not look at him.
Yeah. It's just like, come on, like who writes these things?
Yeah. It's believe you me.
And people were like, Ted, he should get the pink slip. I'm like, no, he should not be fired. He should be told to do better.
Thank you.
I was like, he did not lie. He did not hurt anyone. It just lacked taste. And you need to have taste in those situations.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. Like people are too busy out there trying to like take people's jobs everyone. Or whatever. Yeah, and it's just kind of like, no, sometimes people just need a little education, and I get that.
There's a generational gap there where people maybe felt that they used to be able to make those jokes, and now you can't or you shouldn't. I mean, you're allowed to make those jokes. There's just going to be ramifications now, as we've clearly seen. And
the difference between free speech and consequence-free speech.
Yeah, totally different. Yeah, nobody put him in jail.
No, exactly.
But NBC didn't care for it.
Yeah, they said thank you. Oh, and speaking of which, you know what? Here's a terrible segue. TNT and ESPN over. Have you watched TNT and ESPN?
I didn't see the TNT. I watched ESPN. I didn't care for the camera angle that they used. They were using that NBA camera that was lower. And I was like, don't try and reinvent the wheel, guys. Just give me the classic middle of the rink going back and forth. That's all it takes for me.
You will love TNT.
Okay, good.
TNT has it knocked it out of the park last night, as far as I'm concerned.
They do a great job. And I mean, what's amazing is TNT has made their post-game show bigger than the games itself for the NBA. So if they do that with the NHL, how is Gretzky? Because back before he was always a little, I feel like Wayne Gretzky understands how much pressure is on him every time because he is hockey.
Yeah, Mr. Hockey.
I mean, I know
no disrespect to Gordie Howe.
No, I was like, it was Gordie Howe, and it became Wayne Gretzky, and there was a huge amount of pressure on Wayne Gretzky during that transitional time when he's breaking records, just like Patrick Marleau understood. And I think Wayne Gretzky carries that with him everywhere he goes. Right?
I will tell you, Wayne, I thought when they went to him, when he was, when he didn't feel like the spotlight was on him, when he was trying to just be part of just kind of contribute to the group, I thought he was fantastic. The thing that killed him, and if you went on social media, I
heard about this. Yeah.
Yeah. The whoever was part of the hair and makeup department. Oof. The hair color. It's like, dude, you're like 60 something. Like, embrace it. Embrace the gray. Just fucking deal with it. Like, that part was, there were people making Giuliani references, like, if they turn the lights up anymore, it's going to start streaking down the side. And it's just, dude, just embrace the gray. Remember you in that Nickelback video, Rockstar, where you're just out there with the mansion and swinging the stick, and the hair looks a little salt and pepper. Just go with that. Like, we all remember the highlights of you back in the day. It's okay. Embrace the gray. We all get older.
I know. I saw a picture and I was like, ooh, that's not the best. But you know what? Like, it's an insecurity I don't have. So
and neither do I. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just I was like, it's, and now that I do find a couple, there has been like a couple grays, which I think, like, for 39 to not have any grays in my beard yet, I'm feeling pretty good about that. So, but I could understand why he might be sensitive about it. And like, I try to put myself in other people's shoes. Like, maybe he is sensitive about it. Maybe he feels that as the great one.
Yeah. He's always has to be the great one. It's
the great
kind
one.
Of like,
there's weird dynamics with things like that play in. And so, like, I try to be understanding, because as, like, I started going bald when I was 14, which that sucked, by the way. So, like, I understand, like, maybe he's sensitive about it, because at the time when I was in high school, people were like, Ted, you're losing your hair. I was like, yeah, I was sensitive about that. It's a little bit more abnormal than going gray when you're 60 years old. But I try to be like, maybe he was like, take the gray out. And it's a bit, and when was he going to have more eyes than last night?
Yeah, but wow. You don't see Joe Montana going, can we lose some of the gray? You don't see.
But Joe was never the face of football the same way that Wayne Gretzky was the face of hockey.
That's true. Okay, so at this point, then, who would you call the face of football? Is there one
of the NFL?
Yeah,
it's got to be Tom Brady, right?
Yeah, but but that's a player. Yeah, I mean, but you're talking about somebody who's still in the game, whereas Gretzky's been gone for 20 some odd years.
Well, I mean,
that's I mean,
we're talking about a bigger issue with the NHL. NHL and baseball have this, where Mike Trout could walk down the street, and I don't think a lot of people would know who he was.
But to my point, though, Trout still playing. Like, who is Mr. Baseball to you? We talking Hank Aaron? We talking
all time?
Yeah. Well, isn't Gretzky all time Mr. Hockey?
Yeah, no, he is.
It's an interesting dichotomy to get into.
It is.
Gretzky really personifies hockey, where I don't know that you can say that about the other three sports.
No, it's different, which again goes into the whole thing of him being in a unique situation where, again, maybe he wants to when you take away all his goals and he's still the all-time points leader, there is an invincibility about him. And I'm sure that's a lot of pressure on a guy to constantly know that you are hockey. And I'm sure Gordie Howe felt that previously.
Well, but you look at Alexander Ovechkin embracing the gray.
but Ovi's always been kind of like, he's a wild man. Like, he doesn't try and be a perfect, like, where, I'm trying to think, like Mario Lemieux, Mark Messier, like these are the big names, Jaromir Jagr,
well, I don't know. Jagr seemed to give no F's either.
Well, but
we're talking about a guy who put on social media, like let some girl that was sleeping next to him.
Well, he didn't let her. She did that.
Well, yeah. And he was like, yeah, so I scored. What's the problem?
But Henrik Lundqvist did. He always wanted to be the perfectly coiffed, sartorial splendor model looking guy.
King Hank.
Yeah. Which again, if I had that ability to look like a god, I would probably take advantage of it too. Like, because the only other guy that I think, if we're talking about sports, even though Ronaldo and Messi are still playing, David Beckham is still the guy. And David Beckham, every time you see him in public, I just go, well, that's just not fair.
Yeah, dude's chiseled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's another one and he's aging very gracefully. You know, it's, as I'm sure there are probably women who are the same age as Elizabeth Hurley who say that's not fair.
Oh, my Lanta. Do not get me started on Elizabeth Hurley. That is not fair. That is so not. I don't understand what diabolical DNA was involved there, but that is amazing.
Well, like, I hate it. Well, this is when people are like,
and the fact that she's a mother.
People will talk about Jennifer Lopez and they'll be like, oh, plastic surgery. I'm like, I don't care how much plastic surgery you gave to me. Like, clearly she is going to the gym and not eating any sugar and
knocking it out.
This is not surgery. This is her treating her body like a temple. Now she has the money to do it. Yeah. Just like David Beckham does, and just like Wayne Gretzky does, and just like Tom Brady does. Thing.
It's like, how chiseled would we all look if we all could afford our own personal trainers and nutritionists?
But they also feel that I think there's pressure to look that way, which again gets back into Gretzky maybe not wanting to show the salt and pepper, of which point you do, like, it's a whole, no one is ever going to judge me the way they judge Tom Brady. Like, that's just how it comes down to it. No one's ever going to judge me the way that they would David Beckham. For better or for worse.
Oh, my Lord. I don't know what we started talking about 20 minutes ago, but I really enjoyed this conversation.
Dude, it's always fun, man. But if I want to wrap it up, go to the Western Digital Sharks and SAP Center app to listen to the Sharks Audio Network live, or you can go to sjsharks.com and the listen live is on the side. You can also go to iTunes and Spotify and Google and get all the podcasts. If you search San Jose Sharks, our podcast come up right at the top. Yours does too, though. So,
yeah, good job. So fans, I'm assuming all 82 games can expect the morning after to find the morning tide available to them with the great clips from the locker room and
my
all the stuff
hot
that they're
takes.
Used to.
Yeah, you'll get my reaction from the game, players' reactions. Talking with her. Last year was really hard to talk to broadcasters because everybody was playing constantly when you had a condensed 56 game schedule. But yeah, it'll always be there. And we'll also have the morning of game number 1. We'll have a morning tide to start off the season on Saturday morning, and then on Sunday morning, and then the various other games, and and the other podcasts and everything. I mean, it's all on there. Well, it's all Sharks, baby, all day, all night.
If Remenda's going to be doing a lot of these road games, I'm assuming that he'll have some nice quips to.
I would hope so.
To offer you.
I would hope so. But the thing is, when they're traveling, they're kind of on the team schedule, so the team schedule might not include a phone call with Teddy. So that is always. But that's why I'm going to try and bring in the other broadcasters, and for other games when we're doing stuff, I'm going to try and get Drew on as well. So there's always going to be time for Drew.
So realistically. Like, I don't want the Pollyanna Curtis Brown outlook. Realistically, you look.
These are Curtis. If you watch this, these are AJ's takes. No,
because we talk about it. It's just because that one time when it's like they threw to him about the horrific power play, and he's like, I don't want to talk about that. Well, come on, that's the elephant in the room, damn it. But you look at this schedule now. Look, most people are saying that the Pacific. Not the strongest division aside from Vegas. Now, the funny thing, of course, is that the various models, everybody's got all their statistics that they throw into the blender and see what the module spits out. And I've seen one where it was Seattle at 107 points and Vegas at 105. And I'm like going, I don't know what the guy. And the best part is that he had the Sharks at 3 I think at like 100 points. And I'm going, Okay. Yeah, all right. Yeah. But realistically, the most, whether it's Vegas, ESPN, all the prognosticators, they have the Sharks, and I was one of them, to be honest. I as soon as I got the schedule, I started writing down is this the right one? I thought it was this one. But anyway, I started writing it down and I spit it out and I was like, I go through this. I see 86 points at best. Last time I looked, that is not going to get you in the playoffs. What do you think? And honestly, you have to take into account too, that is as great as training camp has been without Evander Kane. And I'm not saying that him not being there is the reason why it was so great. Because look, 2 years ago, Peter DeBoer came out and said this not our best camp. And then we saw what happened a couple months later. He was gone. And so Bugner had to sidle in. We all know that he was dispatched from Florida before that, after leaving the Sharks. And then last season, they were the only team that had to relocate for their preseason and all of that stuff. So this is literally the first time that Bugner gets a solid preseason with this group. You look at all the exhibition games, they went 3-2-1. The ones that they lost were very close, but they also, you look at the skills competition that they had last weekend, there are smiles on faces that we haven't seen in a while.
Yeah.
Like it seems like they're enjoying playing with each other. Again, I'm not saying that's because a player isn't there right now, but how do you think this team shakes out realistically based on, the competition that they're going to have? Because most people are saying, well, Vegas and Edmonton, just put them up as 1 and 2, and everybody's going to fight for that 3-4 spot.
I mean, hopeful me says vying for one of the final playoff spots. That's hopeful me. More realistic me says 5th or 6th in the division. Mm-hmm. That said, like I alluded to earlier, I don't think I'm going to be that surprised if the team finds themselves in a better position, because you do have these players like Erik Karlsson and Brent Burns who could have a bit of a renaissance. And I don't think that's a wild take to have, right?
Well, Burns is he's a fitness freak.
Yeah. Listen, the Giants, Crawford, Belt, Posey, past their prime. And then what happened this year?
Killing it for the well. But and I know that's fair,
that's
Posey,
a bad compare. Yeah,
but to be fair, Posey took all of last season off. But go ahead.
But I mean, it's not fair to make cross sport comparisons to a historically good year. Yeah. However, it shows you that guys can recapture form.
Yes.
And I think that if there is a recapturing of form, then the Sharks suddenly become much, much more dangerous and potent. So, I feel like that is a possibility. So, and I hope that possibility comes to fruition, because it's more fun when the team is good. Well, I mean, that's
to coin a phrase from Drew Remenda. I go 5 guys. And if you need to talk to Drew, ask it at the next time you talk to Remenda, ask him, hey, what is this that AJ told me about Daryl Sutter and 5 guys? He will tell you one of the funniest stories you've ever heard.
All right, I will ask.
But for me, 5 guys. It's Marc-Edouard Vlasic. Mm-hmm. It's Erik Karlsson. It's Timo Meier. It's Kevin Labanc, and it's Aiden Hill. That's those are the 5 guys for me. It's like, can Karlsson? You look at it a couple of years ago. Labanc and Sorensen each potted 17 goals. And Doug Wilson was saying, we think these guys can score 20. Yeah. And then what happened? Right. In Sorensen, we all know he signed a 4-year deal with Sweden. So he's gone. But it's, can Labanc come back? Because let's be honest, Labanc was projected to be, top 6 guy. Where's he been stapled to the entire preseason? 3rd line.
Yeah.
So can he fight his way back up? Remains to be seen. Timo, that's a guy that since he signed his big contract has been.
Timo's got to come out hot in particular this year. He's the archetype for the modern power forward, and he's got to stack up to a higher level.
Exactly.
I mean, he started to get it late in the year last year, but it wasn't there early. And that was the same thing in 2019, 2020. So Timo is a guy that I am specifically looking at.
Absolutely.
Like he's got to be up to his capability.
But the 5 guys, it's, like I said, Vlasic needs to have that bounce back. Timo, LeBanc, but the other, Erik Karlsson, you are the highest paid defenseman in the league.
Yeah.
If
highest paid player, right?
Highest paid defenseman. No. Have you heard of Connor McDavid?
I know, but for this specific season.
No. He's the highest paid defenseman, not the highest paid player. No, Connor McDavid, I think.
Because he signed an 8-year, $100 million deal, right?
No, 8-year, $92 million, 11.5 per year.
Yeah, and this year Karlsson's getting 14.
Yeah, but I'm talking, AAV, not, actual salary.
No, because this specific year, I saw somebody talking about it with the money. They said that no one will feel feel it more than Erik Karlsson this one specific season.
No, I'm looking. No. Okay. I understand why. If you go on cap friendly, so average value, AAV, it's 11.5. This year, if you break it down by salary, this year, 14.5
for Karlsson.
Yes. 12 next year, 11.5 the year after that, then 11, then 9, then 7.5.
Yeah.
But basically it all comes down to cap hit and AAV.
Yeah.
But his cap hit highest among defensemen.
Okay.
So he's the guy. And then Aiden Hill, like I understand like Martin Jones put up 896 over 3 straight years. And that's the reason why I kind of go back to the whole, a lot of people rag on me because, oh, dude, you're just in love with Pavelski and Nyquist and Donskoy. No, I'm not in love with those 3 players specifically. Yeah. I'm in love with the offense that they provided. And it wasn't, replaced.
No.
And so I look at with Karlsson, with Aiden Hill, is that, well, what happened 3 years ago when you had Pavelski, Donskoy, and Nyquist? You went to the Western Final.
Yeah.
Right. And Martin Jones put up an 896. And then the following year, what happened? Martin Jones put up an 896. You missed the playoffs. The next year after that, 896, you missed the playoffs. Well, what was the difference here? Because it certainly wasn't Martin Jones. I mean, you cannot be more consistent. Were the numbers horrible? Yes, but they were consistently horrible. So that's what I want to see is, can Aiden Hill, and from what I understand, when you listen to the stuff that comes out of camp, evidently he's way more aggressive than Martin Jones. And I will tell you right now,
yeah,
Brett Hedican was on NHL Network Radio either last week or the week before, might have delivered more honesty than more people than not were willing to hear, where he basically kind of called out Martin Jones and said there was times that he saw Jones in practice where Jones looked like, okay, what are we doing? Where Aiden he's evidently coming over to the bench at every break going, hey, let's go. What's going on? Hey, he's very aggressive. He's very talkative, where Martin was very passive. And it seems like the Sharks
might be responding to it.
Yeah. They're just kind of like, hey man, look at this fucking guy. He's jacked, man. Let's go. You see stuff like that. I'm sure when you play team sports, it's play softball, whatever. You always have that one goofball on the team that's just kind of like trying to hype people up. And it's like, what do you need a different beer? Come on, get out there, hit the fucking ball, and those guys, they break the tension and they loosen you up. And that to me is, I looked at this and like I said, I projected the Sharks to do 86 points at best. And now when I threw that on there, I didn't know about Eklund and what he was going to do. This is just before camp. I wasn't sure about Eklund. I wasn't sure about Kane, but I also thought that Knizhov was going to be starting. I thought Barabanov might be in the top 6.
Yeah.
But we've and I think, man, we're going to learn a lot in these first 20 games. Like, can Eklund make the long haul? Is Jonathan Dahlin, worth the one-way contract?
Yeah.
Yeah. That one-way contract, a lot of people kind of went, I don't know about it. We'll see.
It'll be interesting, man. I think we're going to learn a lot, but I'm glad that we've got 82 games, and I'm glad that we have hockey back with us in October, because this is how it's supposed to be. I'll put it that way.
That's what I'm saying. So Ted, thank you once again so much for joining us on the show. We're going to move over to Giants baseball right now, which is top of the fourth, 2 men down. Logan Webb. Well, that's not going to be good. Anyway. Well, oh no, I'm sorry. I thought Logan Webb was hitting. I'm sorry. He's pitching right now.
Is there a score? I haven't looked yet.
Nothing right now.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Top 4.
We'll check back in the 14th.
So. There you go. Oh, please don't. Please don't. Hey, you know what? Before we go off, I want to get an outsider's perspective on this.
Sure.
Just to do you think that the Athletics should completely abandon the Coliseum site if they don't get Howard Terminal?
You mean like move?
Well, yeah, where it's just kind of like, I mean, they're very much like, you've heard Caval say terminal or bust. And it's basically, they're saying Howard Terminal, then Vegas, then Henderson, then Portland, then something else. And then maybe we'll consider the Coliseum. I don't think they should abandon it because it's the most easily accessible stadium in the world, maybe. Thank you.
But the thing is, and I argue with people about this, is that it's not just about the game anymore. You need to have the bars and the restaurants and the shopping, which is what you're competing with at Oracle Park in San Francisco, that China Basin area. When there was nothing there after 49ers games, when my dad was working for the Niners, he would drive me and my brother past that. He'd be like, this is where the Giants stadium is going to be. And be like, there's nothing here.
I was going to say, but when you went by it back in like 96, 97, it was a hole.
Yeah, but it's like, the difference there is there was nothing there. It was warehouses versus the area around the Oakland Coliseum. There is stuff there. It's just not you can't.
It's industrial.
You can't. Yeah. And it's also, there's people that live around there. You can't also just like redevelop the entire area because you want to put in restaurants and shops.
But okay, here's my point is, have you looked at the development? I wish I could remember what it is called off the top of my head. I think it's called like Westgate or something West, but it's the development that the arena that the Arizona Coyotes are currently playing in. Mm-hmm. You look at that from like a Google satellite view or whatever. It's that whole entertainment district. In fact, I think that might be what it's called, like the Westgate Entertainment District.
Okay.
But it's a whole thing of like, like there's batting cages over there, and there's a sports bar here, and there's a hotel there. And it's like, there's a whole bunch of entertainment stuff surrounding the venue that the Coyotes play in. Now, granted, the location that it is in is like 25 minutes outside of Phoenix. Like that part, yeah, okay, that's not that great. But the Coliseum site at 66th
is right in the heart.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not, that far away from downtown, very accessible from 880 and BART. But you look at that site on Google Satellite, you could easily fit that into the same site that the Oakland Coliseum, the arena, and the parking lot fill, and still have like a little space left over. And for me, it's just kind of like, well, you've lost the Raiders already, you've lost the Warriors, you have for Christ's sakes, you lost your indoor football team already. So it's kind of like, and Chase Center, brand new venue, plus people play at SAP. Like if you want to draw people in, like, yeah, okay, you did some nice renovations to the Oakland Arena back in the mid to late 90s. I mean, I saw a lot of concerts there. I saw Day on the Green at Coliseum multiple times, but it's just kind of like, I feel like that whole area just needs to be scraped and be a blank canvas and build it into like a great entertainment district. Like I get Caval wants the nice waterfront ballpark. I just feel like completely discounting that area, I think, does them a disservice.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the option that keeps the A's in Oakland is the one I want.
Right? Thank you.
Like
and I'm not that's the whole thing, is like, I'm not even an A's fan, but I'm not a hater. Like I like that. I still like having both teams here because it gives me as a fan the option. And it's like, hey, you know what? It's like, yeah, I'm a Giants fan. I want to root for the Giants, but it's nice to go see a game against the Texas Rangers or the Yankees or the Red Sox, you know,
or just here's the thing. This is the dirty secret of the Oakland Coliseum. When have you ever gone to an A's game and said, boy, this sucks. I wish I was at a new stadium.
Yeah.
Never.
No.
Every time I'm there, I'm like, this is amazing. I crushed beers with my friends in the parking lot and played cornhole. Threw a football around, threw a baseball around. We barbecued. Then I went in and it was not overwhelmingly expensive. And I got to sit next to my friends and have a great time and watch great players.
And the treehouse is a blast.
That's great.
Yeah.
Listen, it sucks that the stadium is old and does not have everything to offer that everything else does. But didn't people learn from the Field of Dream games this summer that like the minimalist nature of baseball is kind of sexy? Yeah. It's just like, listen, SAP Center is incredible, but I could watch the Sharks on a perfect rink because the playing field's got to be perfect. You know, if the playing field's fine, I'll watch them anywhere. It's great that you can go to the Sharks and get awesome food and awesome drinks and awesome souvenirs and all these things. But to me, that it's not the paramount. You can also get other things out of that, which are going to be, you know, great experiences for you when you go to a game. Like
hey, you're talking to a guy who went to San Francisco Spiders and Bulls games.
I still have a Spiders hat and a Bulls shirt. So
I have 2 Spiders jerseys hanging in my closet, man.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh, I was all about. I got a pin somewhere that's like, you know, inaugural.
But here's the deal. These sporting entities, they know they have us hooked. And all the other things that are with it, they're trying to entice new people. They're trying to get you to come in. Because if you go and you go to a restaurant and go to a bar and go to the game and you have a great time, you're likely to do it again if you're not a hardcore sports fan. And so they get those people to buy in, and that's great. Whatever it takes to turn those people into a fan, when you have those other avenues, it allows you to create fans in different ways because people associate it with it a great day. But here's the thing. Even when the Sharks or the A's or the Warriors or the Earthquakes or whoever it is, you go to those games, win or lose, you're never upset that you went to the game.
No.
Now, I've gone to concerts and been like, I wish I hadn't spent my money on that. I've gone to restaurants and I've been like, I wish I hadn't spent my money on that. But never once have I gone to a sporting event and been like, wow, that wasn't worth it. It's always worth it.
Oh, yeah. No, there's been more than a couple of concerts where I went, I can't believe I wasted money on this. All right. Man, talk about going long. Thank you so much for joining. As always, I'm sure we're going to catch up with you again quite soon as the season progresses. But we'll see you at the Tank opening night, and let's see what 82 games brings us this season.
Go Sharks.